Hello. Welcome to the second, but first real PacketBomb live stream experience. This is not my quarantine hair. If you don't know, this is from a video I made one time with my daughter, where I was a clown. And I tried to force feed her food for your entertainment to demonstrate TCP concepts because I'm that committed. How we doing with the audio? Is it good? My test earlier this week was a little low. I tried to make it better. I think we're about 8 or 9 seconds delayed. So I'll keep chatting. Good. That's good to hear. I am sporting a little quarantine self haircut. So no curls, afro at the moment. It'll have to grow back out. So welcome. There was a time when, I would enjoy a nice bottle of Lagavulin 16 or, I don't know, some other nice scotch or bourbon. These days, I just get Bullet by the gallon. So cheers. It's 6 p.m. here in San Francisco. Hopefully it's happy hour or whatever, wherever you are. This is just Bullet and soda. Maybe next time will be fancier. I do have some The Rock tequila, Terramana. I'm a big fan of The Rock. He seems like a good guy. It's pretty good tequila, but tonight's more of a bourbon thing. Oh, someone's drinking Lagavulin right now. Beautiful. It is good. The best place to get it here is Costco. It's like maybe $50 plus $60, but I have a Bevmo around the corner, which is I'll just run and get stuff there, and they want like $100. I can't do it. So, all right, what are we here for besides booze? So, 80s music. I said there would be 80s music. Well, you heard it already. That was I'm not gonna play like real 80s music like you would know, because I don't know how streaming rights work. I'm assuming I can't just play a radio station on YouTube. So that was called Blade Runner 2049 by Synthwave Goose. You can find him on SoundCloud. Throw him a few bucks. You can listen to it for free, but I paid him a few bucks, so I could download it. I think it's a pretty cool tune. So, what are we here to talk about? I have spent this time. I've been a Mac guy since 15 plus years. Let me keep the chat up here so I can see what you guys are saying. And so it's in the background back there. Now my daughter uses it for schoolwork, and I built a PC. I haven't built a PC since 2002, I think. The last graphics card I bought was a 3DFX Voodoo 2, and I had that in SLI to play Quake 2, Rocket Arena, which is also probably one of the last games I really played on PC. I tried to do Xbox and PS stuff several years ago. I'm not good with my thumbs. I get killed so easy. So anyway, I've been playing a little bit. I just finished Jedi Fallen Order. Great game, really good. Right now I'm working my way through Doom Eternal. It's pretty cool. And yeah, I'm kind of getting used to Windows again. I haven't used Windows. I briefly used it for 1 year when I first joined Riverbed in 2008 and 9. And then I switched back to Mac because I was Linux before that, and then a Mac, and then 1 year of Windows, and I've been a Mac ever since. So, Action Quake 2 mod was awesome. I do remember that one. Yeah. I hear that you can play it in a web browser now, so cool. Honestly, Windows 10 is not bad. There's plenty of things I don't know how to do. I just Google it and I find the answer and I do it. The look and the feel and where you go to do stuff is all over the place. I know that, but the fact that I can quickly find answers and go do what I need to do is fine. And the interfaces on some of these applications are terrible, but fine. So I did. Let's switch so I can show you something on my screen. I'm gonna mash a button. So cool. This is my website. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, this TCP/IP with toddlers is what that clown thing is from. I don't know if you can hear this, and I apologize. Watch your ears. Oh man, that reaction gets me every time. So you can watch that. You can find it on my YouTube channel. This is the guy Synthwave Goose. He's I don't know. This was a cool thing. So I took a picture of my setup. It's in progress. No, don't get me wrong. It is in progress. This picture I'm about to show you, I've already changed the desk. I've moved the PC up to the desk, which was a mistake. I posted this on Reddit Battle Stations. Now, it has a cable management tray underneath at the top and the back, but I could not use the monitor arm clamp. It was the tray was in the way, so I had to partially disassemble the desk, drop the tray to the floor, and shove all the stuff in there temporarily. And I gave people clear instructions. Don't look here. This is not what these aren't the droids you're looking for, etc. Oh, I got roasted. I knew I would. And we had some good fun making jokes at each other. Windows Terminal. Yeah, I just downloaded the Windows Terminal. It's pretty good. I was using iTerm on Mac. I got about a week in and I was frustrated. The only thing I was really, really missing was Bash, so I could run BC as a calculator. That's just how I do my calculating. I don't like the graphical ones. So I installed enabled the Linux subsystem. You go click and enable it, and then you go to the App Store and download Ubuntu, and then boom, I can type in Bash, and I have a Bash shell. It's great. So anyway, this desk is gone. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for a monitor. I had a 4K, really nice LG side by side with this Dell ultra wide, which is 1440p. And I had the 4K first, and it was so beautiful and so crisp for text. I was just like drooling. But I wanted that ultra wide immersive, and it was 60 hertz refresh rate. And I wanted the ultra wide, which has 120 hertz refresh rate and native G-Sync, because I have a 2070 Super graphics card. And when I got the ultra wide and put it next to it, I was so disappointed in how it looked. It just looked like trash, I thought, compared to the 4K. But then when I started gaming, it was no contest. And I didn't plan to be gaming it to be a big factor, but man, playing ultra wide at a higher refresh rate, I was like, you know what? If I just don't look at the 4K anymore, I'll get used to how text looks on here. And so I sent it back, and here we are. Okay, so what else are we going to talk about? This is an opportunity that I don't have to do a bunch of too much planning ahead of time, and a bunch of editing, right? That takes up a lot of time, and clearly I haven't done much of that in a long time. And I wouldn't know how to do it on Windows anyways. But I have a number of case studies, some that I've done at SharkFest, but never posted on YouTube. The one we're going to do today, Fidel sent me. He's actually in the chat. I've got a few kicking around that we're going to do. And it doesn't have to just be case studies. I like case studies. I think they're fun. I think they really sort of demonstrate the power of what we're trying to learn how to do here with Wireshark and packet analysis. But, I mean, we can talk about anything. I'd love to do this maybe weekly. We'll see. So, real quick, why don't you guys tell me, what is it you guys do? Are you network guys? Are you... security people? voice people, sysadmins just stumbled on this and you're really confused about what we're doing and talking about. Case studies not made by market. I am the marketing department. I do the marketing, I do the content development, the product development. I mean, you know, I've been fired a couple times. Jack of all trades. See, that's a tough spot to be in because everything's your fault. Network system, man. Well, who do you blame? You look in the mirror and then like point to yourself and say, this is your fault, fix your server. No, it's your fault, fix the server, the network. Yeah, so pretty standard stuff. If you are security, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot for you. My very first video was clickbaitily titled how to hack a Cisco router. But if you get past that part, it's actually a pretty cool video about how to manipulate packets on the fly. What do I do at Riverbed? I started out, in tech support, answering the phone, solving cases. Then I was working backline support, interfacing with engineering for a few years. I did that, I don't know, 5-6 years. And that's where I learned. I mean, before that, I was a sysadmin, network admin, and I knew enough to like, why isn't this multicast application working? I took a capture. Oh, the TTL's 1. It can't get outside the local subnet. Let me troubleshoot DHCP. Why isn't it working? Look at the options. Basic stuff. But we all the time got complaints about performance in some building on campus or some application. And it's like, let me go look at the metrics on the switch, the CPU, the throughput. These things are taken every 5 minutes. I mean, good Lord, that's an eternity, right? In network time. So it wasn't until I was working on the vendor side and customers are like, this isn't working or it's not working as it should. And log files can only take you so far sometimes. And over time, I found that being able to look at the packets and understand what's happening and explain it to someone was the quickest way to solve the problem. Especially when fingers are pointing, blame is flying. You come in with the packets, you walk them through it, explain the thing, and most of the time they're like, oh, okay. I guess I'll go call Cisco or whatever. Now I'm in management, so, I'm dumb. This is... I'm on the dark side. I haven't kept up with a lot of the technology. I started this site, obviously, like 5 years ago, whenever it was, just to dump this out into the world before it all drained away, and I was just drooling at my desk. And here we are. So, can we follow along? That's not a bad idea. Sorry. Maybe next time. Can we follow along live with PCAP files you're using? That's a great idea. I'll write that down for next time. I just happen to have some paper here. PCAP. I don't know what that means. Do I miss tech support? I miss the little high that you get from solving a problem. I mean, the story that I will never forget is one where the problem was, I think, in APAC, and it's an optimization. Something is breaking, and it's a complex web app, inventory management, databases, and the team had been banging away at it all day. They passed it around through EMEA, and they said, whoever can pick it up, please progress this overnight. And you're like, I hope when you're in that situation, you're like, I hope I come in the morning and my colleagues have figured this out. And pulling that apart, I wish I still had the PCAPs or I could maybe recreate it, because it's one of my proudest troubleshooting and that packet analysis. But the high you get from that, I still get a little taste every now and then with this. But I do honestly think someone asked about how do I like it on the management side. It's a different set of problems. It's a different skill set. And I do enjoy that. It's certainly not for everyone, and I took sort of a path there. I kind of did a mid-step where I did escalation management. So I'm not like managing people, but I'm managing situations, and I'm not super technical. And then I became the manager of the backline support team, who are all like top-notch, super sharp guys. So it's not like I'm like, why are, wagging my finger at people for goofing off or not? We don't do call center metric typey stuff. At least in my realm and in my experience. I'm sure certain managers maybe be like that. It just depends. But for me, it was always about solving the problem, and helping. Now I'm trying to help my team be able to do that better. Yeah, micromanaging. I've been very lucky not to have to be in that situation. Very lucky. I think certainly there are places, jobs, companies where it would be a nightmare to be in management or to be managed by someone like that. And I've been super lucky. I forgot where I was going. I was asking you guys about what you do. We're talking about that, what I used to do, and here we are talking about packets. It'll one of my guys just went through it'll I don't know. Training, just to bring, some structure to escalation management, I hope. What's my favorite packet? The one that the light shines on and the heavens break open and you figure it out. Okay, so was there something else I was gonna... Anyway, I'm open for ideas, for content, stuff you want to see. If you're like, if it's something I can do, I'll do my best. Or if I can learn something or do whatever, that's fine. Topics, we can try to do something. No promises, but I'll do my best. So what I have here is and I think we're getting ready to actually do something productive. Fidel sent me this. Let me just give you the quick highlights. Deploying servers across the company, 2 separate vendors, on-air content. One server sends data to the other server that plays that content out on the air. It's called MOS, blah, blah, blah. It's an application protocol that sends requests or actions and expects a response back. Pretty standard stuff. It's a TCP-based protocol. The problem was we're sending a command and we don't seem to be getting a response back. It's not working. The servers disconnect from each other. What ended up happening, now I'm sure this has never happened to you, that the vendors kept blaming each other and then moved on to the common enemy of the network. And that's when I was brought into this, Fidel. And they're saying, you know what? The problem here is your servers are on different switches and VLANs. And that's, obviously that's broken. Come on. Application developers, what do you expect? So, okay, I'm blah, blah. And then I figured it out for them, basically is what the rest of this says. So he figured this out. He asked me I think he said, if you want to take a look at this, and then I asked him if I could. I said, great job, you nailed it. And can I use this as a case study? Now, if you want me to look at your packets and maybe do a case study or whatever, it's a good idea to anonymize the data. And to me, the easiest way to do that is a little utility called Trace Wrangler. Now, I've not been able to use this much because, I was a Mac guy and I'm not going to spin up a VM, for like a little utility or whatever. When I've been at SharkFest presenting and I finally got to the point where I'm about to present, I'm like, oh, wait, I need to anonymize these pcaps. I'll be like, hey, Jasper, who is a longtime presenter at SharkFest, can you do these for me on your tool? So Jasper wrote this tool because it filled a need for him. Trace Wrangler. Ooh, you know what? It needs a theme song, like a kind of a old country western TV show theme song, like The Rifleman. I don't know. Anyway, you can download it. It does a lot of cool stuff, which we're not going to get into because frankly, I probably don't know how to do it all. but he has presented at SharkFest. If you go to SharkFest, Wireshark, SharkFest, and you go to the retrospective, and you can go to all these years of SharkFest content, and they've gotten better about it in the last 2 or 3 years, where they have a video literally of every presentation. It used to be maybe just the main room they'd have a video. Otherwise, you just get the slides, which isn't always useful. This guy, here you go, Tackling the Haystack. He talks about using Trace Wrangler in this talk, but I think if you search, you'll probably find another talk where he just focuses on Trace Wrangler. It's a handy tool. So what we're going to do to use it is to anonymize these pcaps. We're going to add files. We're going to take these 2 pcaps that we have, and we're going to add them to the top. And you can put as many as you want. If you've got 1, if you've got 100, you just put them all in here. And then you tell it, what do you want to do on these files? Extract, edit, merge. We want to anonymize. So I don't really know what all these features do. I'm going to be honest, but I know the basics of what I'm trying to accomplish. And, if I play with a little bit more, I'll get more familiar with it. So for the payload, we know this is TCP. We were done told that. Rawhide. That's good. I need to do a Rawhide parody song for Jasper. Trace Wrangler. We do not, because this is an application, we don't want to remove that data, right? If I knew we were just looking at IP and TCP, anything like layer 4 and that's it, and nothing beyond layer 4, and I don't care about it, then we could remove it. But I don't want to do that. I want to keep it in because we may have an application layer problem. So you can replace the pcap ng header information if you want. That's fine. I don't care. Or you can pass it through. It will sanitize the interface information. You can sanitize the comments if there's comments. And yeah. So that could be handy. We're not doing this wireless Ethernet. Fine. We will replace the layer 2 MAC addresses. Now it will keep the vendor part, the first 3 bytes, it will keep that intact. So if it's HP or Juniper, it'll still say that, which is useful. And it will scramble the last 3 bytes. So cool, VLAN. I don't know if there's VLAN in this traffic. He said there was VLAN, but I don't know if it's, well, no, it wouldn't be. This wasn't on a trunk. This was on an access port. Whatever, replace it. Okay, IP. So if you want to replace specific IPs with another specific IP, you can add that configuration here. I don't care, auto mode. And here's the cool thing. Now there are 2 pcaps, and obviously we want the IP replacement to be consistent across all the pcaps. Well, with this tool, it will do that for you. And there's other things here that are probably cool. And honestly, I think that's all we're gonna do. I'm gonna, fine, it'll replace the IP ports. That's fine. I don't really care so much, but potentially you may want to leave the ports alone just so there's some consistency there. It depends on your situation, man. If you need that information, then pass it through. Okay, that's it. Okay, and then you just hit run, and it goes zip bing, zip bing. Yeah, I got a Ryzen 7 3700X, so crank through those 4 megabit files pretty fast. And that's it. It's done. So if we go to here, now it's appended to, I didn't talk about the output, but you can give it a different prefix. You can put it into a different directory. You can do all kind of cool stuff. So if we recall, I believe it's the ENPS server sending information to the Bit Central server. So let's have a look at this. No, I already have this one set up exactly how I want it. So let's, this one, anon. Now, I'm sure you can read that great. Let's make it bigger. Is that okay? I'm looking at, I got my laptop up so I can see what's happening. So now I have a super clean, this is a brand new install because I uninstalled it and then reinstalled it so everything is default. Wireshark. And we're going to make some changes because when I would walk around in the office and I would see people looking at pcaps with all default settings, you know, I would sigh heavily and then go help them. So first off, just the layout. This doesn't work for me, you guys. And also, I was struggling to figure out where things were. One, I don't do this that much. I don't mess with my configuration. Once I have it set, you know, small tweaks, but going from scratch, I haven't done that in ages. And on Windows, practically never. So we're going to go to Preferences. And, yeah, what? Yeah, that's all fine. Columns. We're going to talk about columns because this will not do. Fonts and colors. Do they have Comic Sans? I don't. I guess I'll leave it alone. Layout. First thing I'm going to do. This is my preferred layout. And I will talk about why once we get to back to the main screen. We're not going to worry about capture right now. Honestly, I don't usually do that much. Name resolution. I do like to resolve MAC addresses so I can see the vendor, especially when I'm a vendor and I'm troubleshooting. I want to know, of course, pretty quickly you learn to identify your preferred vendor's, you know, identifier, but I like to see, am I talking with a Cisco box, a Juniper box, you know, whatever it is. I like to have that. Transport names. I want this off. I don't want to see HTTP, DNS. I want to see the number. I want to see 80. I want to see 53. And I don't really want to see network names. I want to see IP addresses. Sometimes it's useful and I will turn it on. But for this, we're not going to. And so we're going to ignore the rest of this. And there are some TCP stuff we might take a look at. I'm not sure if it's going to come up in this case study, but there are definitely TCP preferences that I will change or toggle on and off depending. So we're going to hit OK. Now, here we are. The reason why I do it like this is because 99% of the time, I'm not looking at the packet bytes. So I just move them out of the way. Sometimes I want to quickly look at them. So instead of having to go toggle it back on, it's just over here. And then that gives me the flexibility to get more real estate for my packet details or for the packet list. So that is my setup. Now, second thing that is annoying, and this one is under View Coloring Rules. Can you see that? More or less. These are all terrible, I think. I'm going to leave bad TCP. So if there's TCP analysis flags and it's not a window update is a good thing. This actually, I think I was sitting in the room when Laura Chappell complained about this to the developers at SharkFest, and they changed it. Because a window update is a good thing, right? That's the receiver going, hey, I can take more data now. So let's not call it bad TCP. And anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I don't care about any of this stuff. If you do, that's fine. You can leave it, or maybe you want to change the color. I don't care. TTL lower than expected. I mean, I haven't seen that too many times. Checksum errors, fine. These really, no. I don't want protocol coloring rules. We'll come back to that one. Turn all those off. Now, for this one, I don't really care about fins so much, but sends I care about a lot. I don't mind maybe calling out a send packet. So I'm going to say TCP flags equals 2, which is where send, which is a send flag. No, that's just the sin. That's not a synac. That's fine. I don't care. In my on my Mac where I previously did Wireshark, I had custom coloring rules. We're not gonna worry about that for now. So there we go. Ah, that looks so much better. Interesting that it didn't update the little doohickey on the side. You still see a bunch of blue that's not there. Okay, so now let's talk about some of these columns. Just reword Goldfinger. Yeah. I do have, thank you. I do have a good video on how to set up Wireshark. You can, by all means, go check that one out on my channel. Wireshark 2 versus Legacy. Is this Wireshark 2? What version is this? I thought it was 3. Where do I look? Help? 3.2. I haven't used the old Wireshark in so long, I couldn't even tell you. I think early on, this has had a bunch of bugs in it and some features that I really cared about. But for the last couple years, at least, there's no reason, in my opinion. Well, these days I'm not a power user. I don't use it every day. And even then, there's tons of stuff in Wireshark I never look at. For me, this one's good. Oh, and by the way, I just want I'm not to, but I am in this list. There's a feature I put in here. We won't talk about it this time, but maybe next time. So, okay, first thing. If you're going to add one thing to Wireshark, this is what you need. If you look under the frame, you want a delta column, time delta from previous displayed frames, so that you can, at the packets that you're looking at, whether you have a filter or not, you're looking at the time difference between every packet. So you can spot delays, you can spot patterns. So we're going to add that. And basically anything in the packet list, just about, I think, you can right click and add it as a column. And we will edit that to just be delta. And then I'm going to move it over here by time. Now, time by default is time since beginning of capture. And that's where I leave that as my default. But sometimes if someone says, hey, the problem occurred at 1:30 p.m., I go, okay, well, where did you capture it? What time zone? Because the times displayed to you in your Wireshark is relative to the time zone settings on your computer. So if they captured it in Central Time Zone and I'm in Pacific Time Zone, I got to do the adjustment. If they say 1:30, I know it was 11:30. You can change this under time display format. So you can go to time of day if you want. I'm just going to leave it. Time since beginning of capture. Okay. Now for me, I don't really care about the protocol. Sometimes it might be useful. I don't care. So we're going to remove this column. Now the length, I do recommend having a length column, and it is your preference if you want to have the full packet length like this, right? Or the frame length, or something like TCP length. Me personally, I spend a lot of time at layers 4 and above, and I care about the payload length, TCP length, because that's a direct reflection on application behavior. And MTU, MSS, those are things that just by looking at the packet length, I can draw conclusions from. And I mean, you can as well from the frame length to some degree. My personal preference is TCP length, so I'm going to add that. And if you look, you see some things have brackets around them. If Wireshark has brackets, that is just information Wireshark is telling you is not in the packet. Let's pull out the old packet drawer, byte drawer. For example, stream index. I'm clicking on this. Well, now I just ruined it. If I click on source port, it highlights that in the bytes. There it is. That is the source port. There's the destination port. There's no stream index. And there's no TCP length, right? But it is based off information in the packet, so it did highlight. But my point is, if you have like next sequence number, that's not in the packet. That's a calculation. So we're going to add segment length, apply as column, and I'm just going to call it TCP length. And I say wrong things all the time, either because I just misspoke or I just have the wrong information. And if I do that, I know there's people in this chat who are pros. Feel free to correct me for everyone's benefit. So I'm gonna remove this column. There are other things I personally like. I like to have sequence number, next sequence number, ACK number, because those are critical when you're looking at TCP performance, application issues, but you don't necessarily need it all the time. And if you're new, this is already overwhelming. You open Wireshark, you're like, what? There's so much information. Where do I even start? So, you know what? This is a good start to start looking at an issue. So, Fidel sent these pcaps. We're looking at the now I just don't do that. Yeah, I'm displaying only, a 1080 window off of this larger monitor, so if I move things around, it screws it up. So but what do we have here? We know there's two hosts talking and there's a problem, but let's have a look. One thing I like to do, especially, one thing I wanted to point out, and kudos to Fidel on his, what did he say? They kept blaming each other. So they're saying, oh, it's on different switches and VLANs. Clearly that won't work. He knew that wasn't a problem, but he simplified it and to make them happy so we could get past that and move on. So he spanned the port on the switch. He captured both ends and then creating a new file after 5 megabytes. So you have like a rolling capture. And then you can walk away and say, hey, let me know when the problem happens. But let me know quick because we don't want to lose the data. And then when they say the problem happened, you go in and stop the capture on both ends. You get the time that it happened, and you can go in and hopefully find the issue. So this is a good approach that he did here. But for me, a stranger, don't know, what am I looking at? So capture file properties are useful. So like when I was doing this day in and day out and someone comes to me and says, hey, this problem, we can't figure it out. Here's this data. Can you look at it? And they captured at both ends. When did the problem happen? It happened at this time. And you open this window up and you see that the time span, the start, the first packet and last packet don't even cover the time of the reported problem. I don't even go further. I close it and say, do better. Please get the data next time. So especially if you're looking at both ends, I would want to compare these two pcaps and make sure that they overlap, that they share the same time, right? And they do. So additionally, what else is in here? I don't know. It could be a ton of stuff. Well, two Ethernet, so layer 2, only 2 Ethernet addresses, just 2 IP addresses. So I'm assuming these are and of course he would, when you're working on a problem, you're ideally going to have the IP addresses that you're looking for. But there are a bunch of TCP connections between these two hosts. So which one has the problem? Oh boy. How do we find that out? So there's a few ways you could go about this. If you know the time of the problem, you set your time display to time of day. If you need to do time zone adjustments in your head or whatever, do that. Go to the time. I mean, they're not obviously telling you to the millisecond. They're probably telling you to the minute-ish. But I think this PCAP was what, 20 minutes? 30 minutes, right? So that at least narrows it down a lot. Maybe you find a reset, maybe you find an obvious problem. That's one way you could do it. However, what I tell people before you even get to this point with looking at packets, you've got a lot of work to do. The more work you put up front, playing detective and pushing for more information, getting as much information as you can, understand the problem top to bottom as best you can before you even gather data and look at data, you're going to come off way better. And one thing I did mean to talk about at the top is like about Wireshark in general. And on my page at the beginning, I have a short little video about when you use Wireshark. And it is not for everything. Wireshark is when it's a tool. To me, it's a scalpel. It has surgical precision. You're looking at every single packet. So if you're trying to get like trends and top talkers across your enterprise network over long periods of time, and you've got gigabytes of data, whereas you can go from that down to the problem and fix it, you don't just like start with Wireshark, right? You have work to do before you get to this point. And Fidel did that, right? He set up the capture properly. He asked the right questions, got the right information, and then he's got just the traffic that he needs. Sometimes if you go too far, you miss. If you capture, I don't recommend using filters when you capture because you could miss something important. What if it was DNS that was a problem? What if it was a database connection that was a problem? Filter after the fact if you can. Okay. So you could go look at a time, but he had additional information. He had, at the application layer, he had a, did I lose my scroll? I did. I lost a fancy little thing on the right. Nope. Where's the reload button? There we go. Windows, right? It's probably not Windows. So we have some information at the application layer. Now, Wireshark doesn't by default understand this MOS or MOS, Media Object Server Protocol. And you could go like, oh, okay, well, maybe it just, because remember, we anonymized the port numbers too. So we may have to tell Wireshark what this is. And if we go down to like M, there's no MOS. And I think I did Google it. Point is, I don't believe there's a dissector in Wireshark for this protocol. But we're in luck. One, it's plain text. Two, it's a really simple protocol. So what you can do is we're going to take the we're going to take that ID information, message ID, copy, and we're going to try to find it in this PCAP. And over the years, there have been different ways that I've accomplished this. And because this is an active project that is literally taking input from people and changing all the time, there was a discussion on the Wireshark mailing list just a few weeks ago about changing some very default behavior around sequence numbers because people decide it works better a different way. So just because you did something one way in the past doesn't mean it will always do that. So here's how you do it now. Control F or Command F if you're on a Mac for find. And I'm going to put the message ID in here, right? Now it's not a display filter, it's a string. And I don't want to search the packet list. I don't want to search the packet details. It's not in there. It's in the bytes. I want to search the bytes. And I'm going to say find. And it highlighted this packet. So ideally, this packet in its payload has that string. Now that's just what, 7-digit numeric string? I mean, we've got 5,300 packets. Could it be in more than one? Well, let's find out. Oh, well, it is. It's in more than one. Right? I mean, does that mean the message ID is being reused? I don't know. We'd have to look. But let's start at the first one. let's go back, start at the first one. And what we can do is right click, follow TCP stream, and we get the payload all concatenated together, right? With these little periods in between each of the bytes. And you can just kind of glance, right? So the red is what's being sent, and further down, blue are the responses. So we can kind of see it's HTML-y, right? With these brackets, and you close it off with a slash. So, this is MOS, an ID, a message ID. Okay, so we know we're looking for a message ID, a command of some sort, an ID, story body, pretty basic application. And so at the end of the message, it closes the whole thing off, right? Because everything has to match and close off. And then here's a response with a message ID, with an ACK, right? Pretty straightforward. So we want to find that message ID in here, and hopefully it is the message ID and not some other random string, or else we'd have to keep looking. Now, what's about this one, you can't just search for that. It won't find it, because look at how it appears on the page. It has a period between each character. So if we do find, did we find it? Where's the message ID? 10675. No, that ain't it. Well, oh wait, did the space matter? It did. Haha. It is a message ID. 1067608 message ID. It is an RO replace. That's just an application protocol command. But that was what was said in the information that we had when we were talking to the vendors and whoever else about this problem. So maybe this is it. If we scroll down, we can see a payload, various information about it, looking for a blue response. So I don't know about this protocol application. I've never looked at it before. I get the gist of it just by looking at its behavior, but if I need to go deeper, I'm going to have to Google and I'm going to have to read. I hope we don't have to, but that's what you have to do when you get stuck trying to understand how an application protocol should behave, because you need to know the expected behavior. And many times you can infer it, but sometimes you can't. So scrolling down, I never saw any blue, and here's the end of the request, right? Now, a cool thing about this, if I click on some of these bytes, it'll go to that packet. So I'm going to close this. This is the end of the message. And right away, I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, so clearly we're sending data. Again, we're just thinking about TCP. Remember, TCP doesn't care if it's web, if it's DNS, if it's MOS, if it's something else. Its job is just to send data and make sure it gets there in order and make sure it gets there, right? You know about TCP. You've heard about it. So that's all we're looking at right now. And looking at just what I see it sending data, right? And I'm looking at the TCP link 1460. That's a very standard, it's a full size frame, right? If I click on that, 1514 bytes to the frame, that's a full size frame, full payload. And then there's one that's not with a push flag. To me, that means that's the end of the data. Application's done sending data for now. The buffer has been emptied, where you have a smaller size, a bunch of full-size frames, and then a smaller one with a push flag signifies at the application layer, I'm done. From the receiver side, it means, oh, that's all the data. Let me push it up the stack to the application. And then we have some ACKs come in from the receiver and a FINAC. And if you look, there's a 10-second delay from the ACKs to the FINAC. So that's the end of the connection, right? Then we do a graceful close, we're done. But when we looked at the data, so we never get any data back. Again, so this is where sometimes you need to know the application protocol. Is it multiplexed? Is it replying on a different TCP connection or something? It's not, but things you might need to know. So the question is, was there like some data loss? What happened here? Is the network at fault? What we're trying to understand is if the network did its job or not. And this is where I would normally put up my TCP columns, but we'll just look down here. So the last packet that was sent had this sequence number 9229 with a next sequence number of 9951. And so next sequence number is just the current sequence number plus the amount of data you send. Remember, sequence numbers are just counters. That's how TCP works. That's how it keeps track of the bytes it's sending. So it knows where we are in the byte stream, right? And then we get an ACK, and that's TCP saying, hey, I got some data. And the acknowledgement number is 3389, which means I have received all the data up to and including 743388. And the next sequence number I expect to receive from you is 3389. That's what that means. And the next one, the acknowledgement number increases. So it received more data, which is, it's delayed a little bit. So it's acknowledging these packets up here. And then we get to the last ACK, and its acknowledgement number is 9951, which means I've received all the data up to and including 749950, and the next sequence number expected is 9951. So if we go back to the last one that was sent, we expect its next acknowledgement, next sequence number to be 9951, and it is. What that means is there is no outstanding data on the wire. It's been sent, it's been received, and acknowledged. There's nothing outstanding. The network did its job. Then there's a 10-second delay, right? And the receiver, which is the bit central server, goes, you know what? We're done. Now maybe I would clear the filter and see if what else is happening in this 10 seconds. There's nothing happening, right? So now my question is, okay, this was the sending side. We didn't receive anything. Now, the data was clearly received because we received the acknowledgements. But did the other end try to send something and I never got it? Well, he captured from both ends. Good for him. Let's go look real quick. We're almost done. Oh, no. So this is the bit central server. There's no guarantee it's the same TCP stream, which was 5. So why don't we do the real quick search, find this, right? And follow TCP stream. Oh wait, let's make sure we find it. Get rid of that pesky space. And find. Okay, there's a message ID. It's a replace. We scroll down, no response. And this is from captured on the side that's supposed to respond. And we can verify that that is the same packet by looking at the IP IDs in both captures. It's the same. So armed with this information, you're able to go back and say, this is not a network problem. The network is doing its job. There's no loss here. The bit central server never responded. And after 10 seconds, it closed the connection. There's the problem. So he went back to the vendor, gave them this information. They said, oh, well, you know what? There is a 10-second timeout, and it will close the connection after 10 seconds if XYZ doesn't happen. You saw that it was a fairly lengthy RO replace request with lots of information. The server was taking longer than 10 seconds to process that information before sending a reply, but the application had a timeout, and it closed the connection. So what could you do? You could say, oh, you need to spend several $1,000s and upgrade your server such that it can process the request faster or find the other bottleneck in the application server. We need a patch. Or you could just increase the timeout to 30 seconds and go on with your life. And that's what they did. So, job well done, Fidel. Good job being the hero. Making sure that it wasn't the, showing that it wasn't the network. That's our first case study. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, feel free if you, there's a bunch of old stuff, on my website. If you go on the website, if you want to get emails about new stuff that I'll be doing on here, obviously you can subscribe to YouTube, and I guess you get, like notifications if I'm going to live stream. But sometimes I think I've sent out 2 emails in the last year. Anyway, you can join the email list. If you do, you will get auto-fed like a mini course. So if you don't care about that, ignore it. But that's the only way to get, is to get on the list, is to join that. But you can email me at carrie@packetbomb.com. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really do Twitter that much. And if you have a case study you want to look at, I've got a few more percolating in the background. I'll try to have one ready for next week. Content you want to see. And I'm happy to maybe go outside of Wireshark. It's just, that's what I know. It'd be, Trace Wrangler was another tool I brought in. We can look at other stuff. I mean, why not? So, I just learned about Discord. You guys know about Discord? Some child, set up a Discord server, but kudos to him. A Wireshark Discord server. I went ahead and reserved the PacketBomb one, but I don't know that I'll do anything with it. So I don't even know how you even get to it, but I reserved the name. But there is a Wireshark one. Hop on, and I hope you guys are having a drink. I think I saw Dan on earlier. I hope you're not drowning in chicken eggs. I met Dan through this, and he lives in the area. We met up for lunch, and he gave me 12 beautiful, organic, pasture-raised chicken eggs that were delicious. But I think he may be drowning in eggs with the thing that's everyone's stuck at home. So, everyone, he's drowning in eggs. Yeah. So all your egg needs, hit up Dan. I think I've said everything I'm going to say. I'm going to order some dinner, and thank you for joining. I hope you found this useful. I'm always happy to get feedback, and we will see you in the next one.